We're going to talk about a Celtic view of Samhain. It's one of the most widely known pagan holidays, a day that is celebrated by Wiccans, pagans, and Druids alike. Modern Samhain has its roots in the ancient Celtic fire festival, from which it gets its name, pronounced Samhain, believed by some to mean summer's end. In modern vernacular, Samhain is called Halloween, abbreviated from All Hallows Eve, the name given to the holiday because of its placement near the Christian's church holiday of All Saints' Day, or All Hallows. Originally, the Catholic holidays that take place around Samhain and All Souls and All Saints' Day were in February, having been set during the Roman feast of Feralia. But when the church spread to the Celtic lands, the dates were shifted to November.
The Celts celebrated Samhain as the ending of the old year and the beginning of the new. Caesar tells us in his writings about the Celts that he saw the days as well as the new year beginning at sunset. This would mean that Samhain would have been celebrated starting when the sun went down on one day and continuing to the end of the next sunset. Samhain stood opposite of Beltane, as Beltane marked the beginning of summer. Samhain marks the beginning of winter. Moreover, the beginning of the new year, Samhain, is probably the most important holiday of the year.
It's the end of the harvest period, and indeed, any produce not gathered in by Samhain is left in the fields. This is done because tradition holds that after Samhain night, everything left in the field belongs to the fairies. In some areas, people believe that one particular fairy, the Puka, went out on Samhain night and claimed all the fruit that was left behind. At this time as well, the herds that were put out to summer pasture at Beltane are brought back in, reuniting the herders with their families and allowing the people to decide how much stock could be kept over the winter and how much should be butchered. This was a time for settling debts, as at the last of the harvest fairs ended, people would make sure that anything they owed was paid before Samhain. Samhain was a time that was both joyous and eerie, as it was marked by great feasts and community gatherings, but also a time for telling ghost stories and tales of fairies stealing people.
So we've been referring to the veil being thin. So what does this mean? The veil is first and foremost a metaphor, because veil is the illusion of time and space, its highest truth of who we really are. So the veil is essentially a barrier between you in the physical and the spiritual realm. It's also sometimes called the veil of illusion, because the very purpose of the veil is to provide a barrier between the spirit and the physical world. But the reality and underlying truth is that the spirit and the physical are interconnected, and any perceived blocks or barriers are simply illusion. Einstein even said, reality is merely an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. In other words, the veils of illusion are part of the programming of reality. They are the constructs that hold back your infinite spiritual awareness so that you can perceive yourself as a limited physical being. As the veil dissolves, thin or falls away, truth is revealed and you can experience beyond the physical.
Possibly the most prominent theme of Samhain was that, as Joanna just talked about, of the thinning of the veil between the worlds. On this night, the dead could return to visit the living, and the fairy hills were opened, releasing all the creatures of fairyland into the mortal world. The belief in this was so strong in rural Ireland, even up to the last century, that it was considered extremely bad luck not to set an extra chair at the table, put out a bowl of special porridge, and leave the door open on Samhain. In other accounts, the door should be closed but left unlocked, and a bowl of fresh water left out by the hearth to welcome any returning family ghosts that choose to visit. In Ireland, however, it is more widely believed that November 2nd is the day when the dead return to visit. In modern Ireland, people light a candle for each deceased member of the family, and in some cases visit the graveyards where they were buried to clean the graves. Although popular imagination paints the idea of the dead returning in a negative light, this is not the way the old belief was. In the old practice, people didn't fear the dead who came back to visit, but saw them as protective of the living family. It is a very old doctrine of the Celts that the soul is immortal and passes from one life to spirit and then to another life. So it would be impossible for the Celts to see Samhain as a holiday devoid of celebration.
Do we see any similarities to our modern celebration of Halloween? Leaving food out for the dead and the fairies so they don't play tricks on us? It's likely that the modern practice of Halloween trick-or-treating comes from older Celtic practices called guising. In County Cork in the 19th century, there was a practice that involved small processions led by someone dressed as a white mare who would go door to door asking for tolls and singing. In some parts of modern Ireland, it's still practice of trick-or-treating, children chanting, "Help the Halloween party," and "Any apples or nuts?" Although in Scotland, it was custom for boys or mummers to go out disguised and travel from door to door, asking for money and treats while singing and chanting. The practice slowly switched to children dressing out in masks and carrying torches, would repeat chants like "Halloween, Halloween, a night of fire, candle in a holder," or "Hey ho for Halloween, when the fairies are seen, some black, some green, hey ho, Halloween." Both of these chants are reflected the older practices of the pagan holiday and referring to fire and the fairies being abroad. Or trick-or-treating originating in Britain and Ireland. Children and poor would go out souling door to door, singing songs, saying prayers for homeowners, and performing tasks to receive a soul cake. And here is a song by Sting about soul cakes.